The Athene Real Talk Podcast explores controversial ideas to stimulate debate and active thinking. These ideas do not always reflect Athene's personal views. Welcome to the Athene Real Talk Podcast.
He has been called the best gamer in the world, hands down.
World-famous gamer and philanthropist Athene.
Gaming for Good, it's called, has raised more than $20 million.
Using his notoriety to raise money for charity.
On activism, science, culture, and self-development.
Proud to have him in the studio today. I would not want to take you on in a video game.
So you say past doesn't matter. Past only matters as a source of information as much as the past of your ancestors matters. Do you know that there's been cultures that identify their ancestors and their bloodline as part of their identity? And if someone in their bloodline did a grave mistake, they accepted punishment to death even though they had nothing to do with it? The extent to which you identify with who you are is truly something you've learned and conditioned to do so. If you would have grown up in Chinese dynasty like thousands of years ago, and the freaking emperor decides to destroy your entire bloodline because your nephew did a very grave, big mistake, you would come to acceptance to that and say like, yeah, my bloodline has shown that I'm not worth living. Today, it's just insanity to think that. Same with 1200 going to the Holy Crusade to free Jerusalem makes no sense, right? But it's because of identity. They changed one story for another. Back in the day, they went on a Holy Crusade. Now it's about your selfies. You switched one identity for another. But identity itself does not exist. And the moment you fully let that go by realizing it, you set yourself free. Of course, you need something to fall back on. Because then you might say like, yeah, but I don't want to experience this void. Well, let yourself be defined and driven by the true essence of what you are, which are these consistent patterns that brought about the universe and you. And that automatically translates in an understanding of what you are in evolutionary biology and neuroscience and makes you want to spread this awareness as you realize, that that's what allows us to not just evolve as a superorganism, but also what allows you to be consistent with the awareness itself. Because in order for you to have the awareness, you need to be put in a situation where you got it. And that's why I always talk about, this performative contradiction. Having the awareness requires you to spread it because getting it already makes you responsible to spread it. Shitless says, I think the jump you're asking people to make is too extreme for the large majority. No, that's not true. You just have to be brutally honest to yourself. Do not lie to yourself. You don't want to lie to yourself. If you go about life in a way that you think that all these events have meaning to you, you're lying to yourself. You're truly lying to yourself because these events just happened because of probabilities. That's it. And you might say like, yeah, but if I undo all the meaning of all these events in my life, who am I? Well, the I you're talking about doesn't exist. You let go even the I. You let it go. And you go like, yeah, but then it's a void. No, that's what people call enlightenment. You let go all your attachments and you align yourself with your true essence. And then obviously everything comes naturally. You just try and, understand what you are, and through that understanding arises action and a very strong framework. Straight says, why would I ever care about click when I'm living happily without it? It's because your entire life and your entire happiness surrounds an illusion of the idea of what you are, an imaginary self that just wants to take. And as a result, you put yourself to suffer more. You might say like, oh, it's not true. You're missing out on life. You're literally believing in a framework that is not you at all. You channel everything to this idea of the self. Like, oh, I want to be happy. I want this. I want that. You literally live a life that is not aligned with what you are. Because this I, this self, this story is just an illusion. It's a lie. So yeah, you're really telling to me, like, why should I stop lying to myself if I'm happy with my lies? Well, then my question would just be like, there is not so much I can do about that. If you are willingly submitting to ignorance and to lies, then what am I supposed to do? Like, you are just someone that has to find its own path by realizing at one point in your life that this lifestyle is not really benefiting or aligning itself with reality, and that's all. I'm happy living a lie. I'm not emotionally attached to living a lie. If you're not emotionally attached to live a lie, right, why do so? Why live a lie if you can be more aligned with reality? Because it's exactly that allows you even to be in a position where you're so easily comfortable living a lie. It's the technology, it's our understanding of reality that has brought us to a point where we are even able to experience all this comfort. So it's truly going against your own lifestyle. This attitude of living a lie, or this attitude of not caring about reality, is truly the foundation of almost all human caused suffering. Maybe in your situation it hasn't expressed itself in that way because you are on the lucky end of the equation for the time being. But why? If you can, be even more fulfilled and more aligned and excel in your own growth and the growth of everything around you, why hold on to this illusion? Sacrificing this illusion, this dysfunctional idea of the self, is essential to align yourself and detach yourself from all these meanings that you acquire, that you give yourself because you want to believe so. But if you truly understand that it's all just probabilities and that it is truly meaningless, then you just come to an awareness where you just let go and realize that, this true essence is just these patterns, these consistent patterns all around us that have brought about all the beauty and also your own consciousness. And in there also lays the true meaning, which is, based on my current understanding, evolving as a superorganism. Obviously can change, of course, but yeah. Can I click if I believe in God seriously? Yes, you can. Because I would say, as far as your true creator is these consistent patterns, more so than this personalized God in the sky. Of course, you can use the same mechanics that religion uses in order to be able to come to that awareness by personifying logic. But yeah, it brings about a much more accurate paradigm because you think scientific, you think using empirical evidence, you're not attached, you weigh the probabilities as they come to you without trying to be biased. You don't think emotionally binary anymore, you just accept. You accept even the outcome before it happens because you know you made the right choice. It really gives you a strong sense of control. Your inner child feels safe because it knows that it can trust. It can truly trust logic. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. You cannot trust your lies. You cannot trust this intersubjectivity. You cannot trust what people think about you. You can trust the actual reality, the objective reality, how I define it, which is what you're subject to independent of your feelings, thoughts, and emotions. You can trust that. Can't even trust money. You might say, but what are you saying? Money buys you anything. Yeah, money buys you anything as long as people value it. What is truly the foundation of your reality is the reality you live in. And money and institutions and nations and companies are all intersubjective concepts that are created through the value many people give it. But if people stop giving it value, it loses its value completely. So you can only trust money as long as others trust it. You can only trust a nation as long as other people trust that this nation is there. Same with law, same with anything in the intersubjectivity. But when it comes down to actual objective reality, you can trust gravity whether you like it or not. You can trust it independently of other people trusting it, and that's the beauty. What is this illusion exactly? Our experiences make our story, and you were saying our experience didn't happen. No. I'm saying the illusion is the emotional attachment you have on the events that have happened in your life. It's not whether these events happened or not. It's the emotional attachment. It's the meaning you give it to. That is the illusion. And the moment you give up on that illusion, you start valuing what is truly your meaning by understanding what you are. And that really requires even giving up on the meaning of existing itself, because it is shown that even that is probabilistic. We don't even know that for sure. And that's when you truly see no difference between you, your clone, or a kid in Africa. You don't see a difference anymore because you truly understand that it's just probabilities and that's it. I'll give you guys a nice metaphor. I was talking to Raphael yesterday and he said when he was realizing that there is no difference between him and others, and he said I compare it with a tree, with a leaf on the tree. If I say, okay, I don't care about myself, I die, I fall down, I just live my life, the tree won't die. But if you inherently understand that there is no difference between you and all the other leaves, then if you come to the acceptance of just dying and falling down, that applies to all leaves. And then all leaves die and fall down, and then the tree dies. You have the responsibility to be self-consistent, because there ain't no difference between you and others. And spreading this awareness comes naturally. I'm trying to make you guys realize what you truly are. That's all. I'm trying to talk to you guys and make you guys realize that there is no much difference between you and others. That everything you experience is part of what you are. That these consistent patterns that bring about reality are the same ones that bring about your consciousness. And if you truly understand that, and you understand the probabilistic nature, if you truly understand the probabilistic nature, that for other events you might as well be someone else, you really truly embrace that on an emotional level, and you start, feeling that strong connection that brings about caring and taking care of each other and really, trying to have an impact without the need of anecdotal morals or ethics. You don't need them. It just flows naturally from what you are. It's quite advanced what I'm saying, but I can tell you it's quite easy as well. Something for you guys to really, reflect on. The reason why people want comfort in their life is because we talk about safety that channels through comfort. But the reason why we want to feel safe and the reason why we want comfort is because we crave for existential equilibrium. And what I mean with that is a balance within our own existence. And we do that also by trying to find something we can hold on to with identity. We also try to achieve that by believing in the soul. Everything that gives us this existential equilibrium is something we attach ourselves to because it is what drives us on a fundamental existential level. So basically, my question to you guys is, can you guys emotionally identify this urge for existential equilibrium that then results into your drive for comfort and even your drive of having an identity? So basically, that is my question. Can you guys emotionally identify with the need for existential equilibrium, which brings about this attachment to this sense of identity, this story you can identify with and say, this is me, or like this comfort that gives you the ability to have this consistency within the framework? So basically what I'm saying is, can you boil down your drive for comfort and your drive for having an identity back to this need of existential equilibrium, to have this consistency you thrive for within your own existence? Because identity gives you this sense of unity, of existential consistentness, while comfort is more the practical setting in which this existence can express itself. That is what I'm talking about, and both can be brought back to existential equilibrium. It requires quite some emotional intelligence, guys, to understand what I'm talking about. It's important, by the way. This is very essential what I'm talking about, because now I see a lot of people say you can't have equilibrium in a non-binary world, and that's where this, even your binary thinking comes from you striving for existential equilibrium. You want consistency. The funny thing is, if you would say, what is it that I value the most? Is consistency within existence. You might say, how does that even work? When I say logic are the consistent patterns that bring about reality, the consistent patterns is the consistency I'm talking about. And reality is actually the same as these consistent patterns, and it's also the same as what brings about my existence. So when I say consistency within existence, it's literally the same as consistent patterns that bring about reality, except it is more explained in a way that is more emotional, to put it that way. But the problem is when people see consistency within existence, obviously it's my identity, it's who I am. But no, because striving for this existential equilibrium brings us about to try and hold on to this consistent idea of identity. But when you start realizing that identity is not consistent, and when you start realizing that comfort is not consistent within existence, your drive of having that equilibrium goes against its own balance. And I do think maybe if your inner child understands that it's already holding on to this existential equilibrium, and that it's just expressing it in the wrong way, then rather than letting go the teddy bear and reaching out for the knight or for whatever, is to actually realize you've been holding on to logic all along. And your inner child just looks at it and starts realizing that your drive for comfort was your drive for logic all along, was your drive for this consistency all along. And then you don't have to let go. You just have to realize that your existential equilibrium is much better achieved by holding on to the consistency that allows you to have this equilibrium. And the probability nature of reality doesn't go against it. And this is also something that Katarina said, and also some other people. They mentioned that some people think that probabilities is not consistent, but that's not true. Probabilities still bring about consistency. If you have a dice and you roll 6 million times, on average you will have a consistent pattern that says 1 million you roll 1 million time you roll 2, 1 around, right? So it's not because things are probabilistic that you have to let go consistency. Consistency within your own existence still holds up with a probability understanding of reality. And then you might say like, yeah, but if you say like consistent within your own existence, right? If you say like you want this existential equilibrium, then there is no much difference between you and me, right? I mean, like you're then also just striving. Like there is no difference. But the only difference is that I have a better understanding of what existence entails. I understand that identity goes against my equilibrium because it's not what I am. And I do really truly think if you hold on to that existential equilibrium and you can pinpoint it and you can understand, yeah, that is why I do comfort. That's why I hold on to identity. When you start realizing the true consistent patterns, you might automatically from within open up, not so much by letting go, but just by realizing that this what you were holding on to translated into you holding on to other things that went against that foundation. So existential equilibrium is not wanting consistency. Existential equilibrium is this consistency that expresses itself. If you look at evolutionary biology and everything that has evolved to what we are, these consistent patterns, right, like gravity, the fundamental forces, all 4 fundamental forces, everything that governs what we are these consistent patterns which brings also about this existence. And this equilibrium is truly our path of wanting to exist. And that has brought about us evolving. The reason why we evolved was not so much because we wanted to evolve, but because existential equilibrium, being able to be consistent within your existence, requires you to evolve. And as more we started align ourselves with these consistent patterns all around us, the more we did, the more we achieved equilibrium. And that's truly this conflict between the left and the right hemisphere, where one idea is the view of the world and the other one is the emotional calibration. When you truly understand and you really dig deep to that existential foundation, that existential need of having that balance, you start realizing that everything afterwards, like comfort and identity, were just you holding on to that existential balance in a way that was not fully understanding what it was. And maybe through that, the inner child that is holding on to the teddy bear starts realizing that it was just identifying the teddy bear wrongly, but it was holding on to this consistency all along, and logic was what it wanted. And then what you realize is you don't have to push away comfort. You have to just truly understand that your drive for comfort was because of your drive of existential equilibrium, and that comfort was just a misinterpretation of you. Yeah, like low places, this part is very clear, but this is not making the click for me. Of course, it's not going to make the click for you because you have to really realize it and reflect on it again. You have to truly understand what I'm talking about. Because you striving for identity, why do you want identity? Why do some people believe in a soul or want to believe in a soul? Why? It's because of an existential drive to be in balance with what you are. And people are emotionally attached to identity and are emotionally attached to comfort, not because they want to be attached to these things, but because that's how they channel this existential drive to be in balance with oneself. But if you start understanding that this existential drive has no you, that this existential drive of balance is interconnected with everyone, you lose your identity, you lose even your comfort. Not because comfort is flawed, but rather because comfort was incomplete. And you complete it by seeing that this consistency and this balance that you want to achieve can only be achieved through the same patterns that bring about this equilibrium, which is logic. So you automatically, like logic starts rising from the core rather than having to replace something. it's almost like comfort morphs into logic, because you realize on an essential level you were just misunderstanding it, and what you were holding on to was just your strong desire to have this balance. Why do you run away? Why do you want to distract yourself? Why do you want entertainment? It's because it allows you to have this existential balance. It allows you to be aligned with this world that doesn't make sense. It allows you to align yourself, your left and your right hemisphere. Distraction is what brings about existential equilibrium. But you realize that what gives it even more is true understanding. You start realizing that this existential equilibrium is brought even more about true understanding, and that comfort was just an incomplete way of going about it. This is something that a lot of people don't realize, is that existence itself requires so much consistency. Your ability to speak, to look, to think, memories, everything. Your existence itself requires such a fundamental consistency, and that translates itself in our drive to find this completeness in a soul, or from a soul to identity. We want to be complete. We want to feel one. And that's why we have these stories that we attach ourselves to, because we have learned that that is what we are. We want to know what we are. All of you guys want to be what they are. Even more than comfort, you want to be what you are. That's why you hold on to identity. That's why you hold on to all these things. It's because you want to be what you are. You want to achieve this consistency. And achieving this consistency is very easy. It's right in front of you. It's just realizing, but wait a minute. The way I was going about it emotionally was just, it was incomplete.
Subscribe to youtube.com/AtheneWins. Watch the live stream at twitch.tv/AtheneLive and follow The Real Athene on Snapchat.